Talk a little bit about, of course, now you have two tenants. Talk about placing those tenants and then your concerns about kind of managing and how you guys go about some of that.
Yeah, so I mostly use Zillow to do all of our like advertising, and I use their like payment portal and everything. It's super friendly. It used to be free. It's like $10 a week now or something to advertise on. And then I think used rentals, so just basic kind of advertising for when we were moving out. There was about a day when we were in this situation once we were in contract where it looked like we might have had to get a tenant in there and a lease signed prior to us being approved. But they figured out a way around that. So luckily we didn't, we could move out and then kind of figure out the tenant situation later. And that's exactly what happened. We just, as we were moving out, we did showings as much as we could. And we had a young gal interested, and she signed a 1-year lease and moved in November. And then our tenants who have been there for 2 years are leaving December 1st. So it ended up kind of working out well advertising for timing, because both properties or units rather, were going to be vacant at the same time or close to each other. So the turnover was a little bit more than I expected, even when we were living there and taking care of it. I guess living there, I was like, there's not going to be much to do here. And then you move out, you're like, oh man, I got a lot of crap to do. So it's like painting and holes in the walls and, a bunch of stuff I probably should have fixed a year beforehand, but never did, stuff like that. So that was a little surprising, but I mean, the market in Columbus and where it is, I think we just ended up having to, trust in the quality unit that we wanted. And I think just having pretty standard like acceptance criteria. We set up, if you apply and you have a 620 credit score, I think we do 2.5 times gross income to rent ratio is what we look for, and like no criminal background. And basically, if you meet all those, you get accepted and you get a lease in front of you. And then if you don't meet all those, I have a rule where I'll work with you and I'll see if you'd still qualify some other way, or if we can get some additional documentation that it makes sense. And that's how we run it. I mean, you just set up those systems and those barriers and you stick to them. Not only because you have to legally, but just from a sense of it makes it so much easier on you mentally to not have to think about it so much. So,
well, we found too, people are sick of the apartment lifestyle and they're looking for a house. I mean, a duplex isn't a single family home, but it's definitely a step up from that standard apartment box living. So it's a lot for us just trusting that we're going to find the right tenant who likes the neighborhood and is sick of living in an apartment and is looking more of that house lifestyle. And so far, we found great tenants that are a good fit for our property.
And going back to like your screening process, qualifications and all that, your tenant quality is a reflection of your tenant process, of your screening process. So you doing that due diligence is really important. You probably got some really good tenants in there because you're willing to go through those steps and make sure that they're properly qualified.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we advertise that we offer discounted rates now for longer term leases, for 2-year and longer leases, because I didn't really know it at the time. I was just looking for a way to get tenants in there. But like multi-year leases, from what I've read, are like the key to long-term high quality tenants. I think, I forget his name, but whoever the guy is that runs like Memphis Invest, I think that's one of their things where their minimum lease is 2 years. Like you don't even get in one of their properties unless you're signing on for 2 years. So we haven't done that yet. Our current tenant is a 1-year lease, but that was a big thing for us, as almost like a gut check, if you will, of, this person wants to be here for 2 years. They're serious about it. Obviously, you still have to do your due diligence and make sure they can afford it for 2 years, but generally those kind of people are going to be tenants that like take care of the place. They treat it like a home. And I mean, that's what we want. We want people to feel like they're at home and like feel like it is a home and not just some transitional area. So that's what we look for.
I really like that, because if you're offering a discount, that means you don't have to deal with turnover in a year. So, there might be a month of turnover or whatever. So that discount and that turnover ends up being a wash anyways. And it probably ends up being less headache for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we actually, when the gals who were a 2-year lease, our first tenants, when theirs was coming up, one of them was looking to buy a place and move out, and the one tenant, I actually offered her even a further discount because she was such a great tenant. I was like, look, I'll take another couple $100 a month hit here. Like, I know the quality of the tenant you are. I would much rather just lose a little money and have you stay here, and I'll make it up on my unit, basically, because that non-monetary or like non-quantifiable value of the tenant quality is huge, I think, in this and being successful. And, I think there's a lot of people who on the forums and things who like brag about how good they are at, what's the right word for kicking people out? Eviction. Thank you. Like they've done all of them and they have the best systems. And I'm kind of the mind frame of my goal is to never have to do one. Like I hope to screen my tenants so well and do all the work up front that I never have to do an eviction. Like I know how to do them. I've researched it. I know what the laws are, but that's my goal, to never have to do it. So
we found that doing all of that ourselves, actually physically giving the tours to these prospects and reviewing their applications and calling their previous landlords ourselves has really been like there's nothing that can replace that.
Yeah, for sure. And there's definitely a human relationship aspect to that. And one of the reasons why Drew and I are big advocates for house hacking is generally speaking, a lot of these, 2 to 4 units in most areas around the country and then around my area, they get taken for granted by people that may be out of town investors. And they're, they get run down and, it's more of a money extraction. But when people move into it and make it their home, they generally improve the community. And like you said earlier, there are a lot of people that, come to me specifically from these bigger apartment buildings and say, we left here because, for instance, I just had one recently where, my child got sick because there was mold running rampant. And, and just, and then the community there and kind of the quality of life. And so they're looking for whether it's a home or a duplex or, something like that, somewhere where it's a little bit more of their personal space, a little bit more spread out. And, you get really good tenants when you take care of things.
Well, and think about it. If you're house hacking and you're trying to find renters, you're literally searching for your neighbors. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, doing that search, finding good tenants, you're not just only finding good tenants, you're finding good neighbors.
Absolutely.